Democrats had a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate and a 15-plus seat in the House in the 111th Congress. Let's look at that. Did the Democrats ever really have 60 votes in the Senate, and for how long? Once again, in the wake of the president's immigration policy announcement on Friday, obviously this is an old article dating back to 2012, one refrain you're hearing from critics is that the president never pursued comprehensive immigration reform when he had a Democratic Congress. Of course, as we all know too well, having majority control in both House of Congress doesn't necessarily mean that if the opposition in the Senate decides to filibuster your legislation and without a consistent caucus of 60 votes to overcome the cloture vote, legislation can effectively be blocked. That leads to the question of how long the Democrats actually had a filibuster-proof majority in the 111th Congress. It talks about this chart below, and then it says, what this shows is that there were only two time periods during the 111th Congress when the Democrats had a 60-seat majority. From July 7th of 2009, when Al Franken was officially seated as the senator from Minnesota after the last of the Norm Coleman challenges came to an end, to August 25th, 2009, when Ted Kennedy died, although Kennedy's illness had kept him from voting for several weeks before that date at least. And from September 25th, 2009, when Paul Kirk was appointed to replace Kennedy, to February 4th, 2010, when Scott Brown took office after defeating Martha Oakley. For one day in September 2009, Republicans lacked 40 votes due to the resignation of Mel Martinez, who was replaced the next day by George Lemieux. So, to the extent that there was a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate, it lasted during two brief periods, which lasted for a total of just over 5 months when counted together, and Congress was in its traditional summer recess for most of the July through August 2009 timeframe. Now, why are we talking about this? Because certain people on the left are still pissed off that Obama didn't codify Roe v. Wade through legislation when he had this magical filibuster-proof Senate for such a brief period of time. So let's just assume that during that extraordinarily brief period of time, he managed to squeeze this through. What makes you think that the incoming Republican president, Republican House, and Republican Senate, or the last time Trump was in office and he had a Republican Congress, that they wouldn't have just written a new bill to override that bill, which they can easily do? Like I explained in that video, this doesn't get done in the legislature. It gets done at the Supreme Court level, which is why the Republicans fought not to get a bill passed for 50 years, but to get control of the Supreme Court for 50 years. Because that's where this gets codified for the next 50 years. That's how this works. You can pass a bill today codifying Roe v. Wade, and in fucking February, when the Republicans have full control of the White House and Congress, they'll just pass a bill doing away with that law. It's that simple. And that doesn't even touch on the fact that in 2009, forgive me, but Obama and congressional Democrats were a little busy pulling the country out of the worst recession since the Great Depression. When Obama took office in January of 2009, we were shedding 700,000 jobs a month. That took priority.